Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show here at 8:35 on a Monday morning. I am Gary Sutton and Mark McKenzie here as well, and hope you're having a great day so far. You can text us, by the way, at 833-478-4729. Our question on the table, not only for the text this morning, but also for the Gary Sutton Show on Facebook, is if you had a choice, what would you take? More love, more money, or more time? It's a big question for you out there, just kind of a fun one today, and you can check it out. And we're looking forward to sharing some more of your responses. Also, if you want to have a chance to win a Capital Region golf card, you can let me know that on the text as well at 833-478-4729. A couple of people have already done that this morning, and we'd love to get you in on that. Well, we have a young lady with us this morning. Her name is Natalie Kling. And Natalie Kling is a high school senior over in Lancaster County. She is going to graduate with the class of 2025. She's been accepted at Shippensburg University for the fall semester of 2025, and she'll be dual majoring in elementary and special education. Now, she's got a lot of different awards, but one of those right now is she is Miss Pennsylvania in the United States of America contest, and she joins us here this morning on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. Natalie, an honor to have you aboard this morning. Miss Pennsylvania, huh?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I have to make sure when I'm in the presence of royalty, I have to make sure I say it right. Miss Pennsylvania is a pretty good title to have, right?
It is. It's definitely been an honor to have that title.
Well, that's an important thing. You've won that. I see you do a lot of different things. You're a varsity cheerleader. You're an IEA team member for Western Riders. What is IEA? I just wanted to know what that was.
Yeah, if I'm being totally honest with you, I'm not sure what it stands for, but it's basically competitive horseback riding, and I just joined that recently. I bought a horse, and I was like, why not? Let's do it.
Are you on speaker right now?
I am.
I think what I'm going to do is ask you to just use your regular phone there. It's a little clearer for us because we get kind of a reverb back. So if you don't mind doing that, that would be helpful. You're a multiple-time state champion in power tumbling. That hurts just thinking about that. You were one of the founders and coaches of Jupiter, a special needs competition cheer squad. You're a member of the Blue Street Connections, you're over Manheim Township, which is a school club designed to help students with disabilities with daily functions of a high school setting. And you were Miss Lancaster County Teen USA in 2024. Do you ever sleep at all?
I don't, no.
Okay. Now, from a serious standpoint, the name of your platform is Labels Can't Define Me. And the goal for your platform, I see, is to bring awareness to mental health. You know about this up close and firsthand. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, definitely know about this. So my freshman year, which is a rough year for anybody because it's a social struggle, to say the least, I found out that I was being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I thought that was it. Like, I always knew something was off with me, but having that label for the rest of my life, I was like, nobody's going to treat me the same. This is who I am now. I'm a bipolar teen. And it got to the point where with bipolar obviously comes depression and all sorts of other issues. And if it's not treated properly, then it can get really, really serious really fast. And my freshman year self decided that I was just going to wake up one day and get over it, which is not how bipolar works at all.
Right.
Yeah, so I wasn't taking medication. I wasn't going to therapy, which entailed that I was also not getting out of my bed, not eating, not sleeping, not going to school, or doing anything that I should have been doing for myself.
Natalie,
it was a rough time.
How did this manifest itself? For people that aren't familiar with bipolar depression, we hear about it a lot. But for people that have not experienced it or don't know a lot about it, how did it manifest itself with you? For example, what kind of things would happen daily for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess the best way that I've been able to explain this is kind of childish, but I just felt emotions a lot more deeply than the people around me. Like, if there was, for example, like a natural disaster that happened recently, the horrible plane crash in D.C.
Right.
People will talk about that, and they'll be sad, and they're able to, like, move on. I mean, I'm okay now, but in the past, if something like that would have happened, I would not have been able to sleep for weeks, and I would not have been able to get onto any other topic. It would have only been talking about that horrible incident.
Wow.
And just being really hung up on things. And I don't know, sometimes I would talk about it too much, or sometimes I would bottle it up too much to the point where, like, a month later, I would explode.
So you really ingested that and pretty seriously, where other people might say, yeah, I'm sad. It's a bad thing. Nobody wants to see that. And yet you took it in kind of a personal way. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, definitely. Things just are, it's a very emotional disease, and it's a very hard disease to describe too, because a lot of times I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know why I'm upset or if I'm upset.
So you could be going along during the day and everything's going pretty well, and all of a sudden you have a tremendous maybe high or a tremendous low. Is that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that seems kind of like...
Oh no, yeah, 1,000%. It's either 0 or 100, no in between.
Wow. So you go through the beginning of this thing and you're not taking medication. You say, I'm going to get over this. I'm strong. You don't really take therapy at that particular point. Did you feel somehow, and I know this is something I hear a lot of people talk about because I suffer from that to some degree, not bipolar, but I do suffer from some mental depression and have for a long time. And I do take medicine for it. I do have counseling for it and so forth, but it's gotten a lot better. But I hear people say over the years, I remember my dad, who was a principal at the school where your grandfather went to, actually. And my dad used to lie down in the afternoon and he would be crying sometimes in his bed. And I'd say, geez, my dad's strong. My dad, that's not him. And yet I asked him one time, Dad, what's the matter? And he couldn't really say. And at that time, he had depression, but at that time it was also seen as a stigma in having that. Did you feel any of that in the beginning here? Is that one of the reasons that maybe you didn't go get some help on it right away?
Yeah, I think that definitely could have been a reason. The biggest reason is that I just didn't want to be different than the others around me, which I now know sounds silly, but as a freshman, trying to figure out who I was, getting a lifelong diagnosis on top of that, I really just wanted to bottle that up and act like it wasn't there.
Well, and schoolmates, I was a teacher for 25 years before I did this. Schoolmates can be very, very cruel sometimes, and I know you didn't want that to be a label because we don't want to be labeled when we're not just freshmen, but any time in our high school career, right?
Right, definitely.
So you're sitting there, and now you try it that way. Didn't work out too well. Tell us about what the next step was.
Yeah, it definitely didn't work out well. But it was about sophomore year. So I went all through freshman year like that. It was quite horrible. Sophomore year, I was really trying to bottle things up, and everything was triggering me. Like, anything that would have normally been like, okay, it's whatever, I'm just going to ignore it, I get triggered very easily. And there was some very intense bullying going on at my school. Obviously, coming from the cheer team, girls were not being very nice. And one day, I just up and I left my school.
Wow.
I went online, and that was my complete turning point. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I will not surround myself with negative people. I am not going to rot in my bed anymore. And I actually ended up, it was about second semester of sophomore year. I ended up finishing my whole entire year of sophomore year in second semester because I went home and I worked so hard to prove that I was more than not only the bullying that was going on, but my diagnosis as well.
So how do you get so how do you get by that then? Because obviously you've achieved so much since then. How did you get by that? How did you get past that?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I guess the best coping mechanism I found to get past that is just really reminding myself that the things that these people are saying and the things that I was saying to myself was all in a time of hurt. Like, when I was not very kind to myself looking in the mirror, I was hurt. I wasn't being sincere. I was hurt with myself. So I kind of try to, reflect that onto the people around me. I'm like, there's no way somebody who is genuinely happy in their life is going to say something like this to somebody else. So rather than feeling that intense anger I would feel before, I felt remorse.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, obviously you're Miss Pennsylvania, the United States of America, USOA Miss Pennsylvania. What's the difference between that and the USA Miss Pennsylvania? Is there a difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the USA Miss Pennsylvania was the one that I did in the teen division last summer. they're more modeling based. They're great, absolutely phenomenal. But there's a lot less like academics to it. It's a lot more just like the look at me show. But the United States of America's pageant system is really cool. There's a whole bunch of different interviews rather than like in the pageant world. There's usually one interview. There was, I think, at least 3 at the pageant I was at.
Right.
And it's very accomplishment based and academic based, and they want to see that the person they choose is going to like really represent their name well and do what they say there.
So how did Natalie Kling, who was struggling with, what you wanted to do, turn into Natalie Kling, Miss Pennsylvania in the USOA contest? I'm anxious to hear how that trail came. How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, this is actually a really funny story. So a lot of girls in the pageant world have been doing pageants since they were like 4 years old, like the whole toddlers and tiara stuff.
Okay.
And that was not me whatsoever. This pageant that I won my title at was actually my second pageant ever.
Wow.
And yeah, I really had no pageant experience. I also entered this pageant 2 weeks before the pageant. And
wow.
So I chose to do pageants because I obviously quit cheerleading because the bullying was so bad. And I was finally at a better point in my life because I had regrouped from the bad mental state I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I miss being able to showcase who I am, but I know I can't go back to cheerleading. So why not try pageants where all the attention's on me? So I signed up, and I found a way to share my story with the world without trying to make people feel bad for me. I want to raise awareness, not sympathy.
Wow.
And yeah, it was actually, so I signed up for the teenage division of this pageant because I was only 17 at the time.
Right.
But the night before the pageant, I got a call from the director, and she was like, hey, Natalie, you are going to be 18 before the national pageant, so we're actually going to throw you in the adult division.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I just lost. Like, there's no shot. Why am I even going? So when I showed up as a 17-year-old who signed up 2 weeks before the pageant and took the whole thing, that was definitely a confidence booster.
Natalie, I'm going to take a break here with you, and I want to come back, and I want to talk about a little bit more about this disease, this bipolar, because I think you can help a lot of people out there. You mentioned somewhere in your resume that you had a chance to talk to a lot of people, and then you get into something called Labels Can't Define Me. And I want to talk with you about that when we come back. So Natalie Kling, Miss Pennsylvania, the USOA pageant, is going to be with us for the second part of our interview when we come back here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. It's 8:47.